Hi, English 112 students. It's Professor Williams. I just wanted to go over a couple reminders for you as you're working on the rough drafts of your social justice essays. So remember with MLA, you always have to have Times New Roman. I know when you open up Google Docs, I think it automatically starts in Arial, but you have to change the font. Make sure that you've got Times New Roman 12-point font. I know it doesn't seem like a really big idea, a really big deal, but that's just a part of what MLA format calls for. Remember, you always have to have your four-line header double spaced at the top left corner of your paper. And then you also need a unique title. So you're not going to title your essay social justice essay or um, essay number 2 or anything like that. You definitely need a unique title. So this particular essay that I'm looking at is actually an essay one of my Queen students wrote last semester, and it's about Appalachian folk music, which has nothing to do with social justice. But I just want to show you a few things in this essay related to MLA formatting, especially when you're using quotes. So some of you had quotes from sources in your trailer essay, which you were only really required to have quotes from the actual trailer if that was a part of one of your main ideas discussing dialogue. But some of you actually brought quotes in from other sources, which is fine. But if you're going to do that, I just want to remind you the correct way to do that. Um, so when you're writing your essay, you need to have complete thoughts, complete sentences, and then bring a quote in. I don't know why this is doing this. Bring a quote in from your source to support what you've said in a complete thought. So I'm looking at this paragraph here in this student's paper. She's talking about folk music, which has nothing to do with your assignment, but I just want you to look at the formatting. So she's talking about folk music in the Appalachian Mountains in this paragraph. And then here she has a complete thought in her own words. People of the Appalachians are known for being different than their big city dwelling counterparts. Okay, so that's a full sentence that could stand on its own. Even if she doesn't have this quote here from one of her sources, this is a complete sentence that can stand on its own. So what I don't want you to do is say, have half sentences. So, for example, people of the Appalachians, and then have a comma, and then your quote. That's not good writing. That's not you writing this paper on your own. That's you making half statements and then bringing in quotes to finish your statements. That's not good writing. So I don't let you do that. Some of your other teachers might let you do that when you're using MLA, but I don't let you because I think it's sloppy writing. So I always want you to have a complete sentence in your own words, and then you'll have a colon, not a comma, not a period, not a semicolon, but you'll have a colon, and then you have the quote from your source, and then the author's name in parentheses with the period after parentheses. So let's look at one more example. So in this paragraph, she says, slow social change was not due to the remoteness of the mountains, but rather the poor economic conditions that hampered advancements. So again, that's a complete sentence. She could have just said slow social change and then put a comma and then had that quote, but slow social change is not a complete thought. And she's the one writing this paper and getting a grade for it. So she needs to make complete thoughts in her own words, and then have a colon, and then have that support from her source. And remember, you don't end a paragraph in a quote from someone else. This is your paper. So you never end a paragraph in someone else's words. You either need to say something else about that quote, um, or you need to have a transition sentence into the next paragraph. So I think that's what she has here, is a transition sentence into the next paragraph. Okay, so that's good writing. Um, that's organized and thoughtful writing using MLA format and using quotes from your sources to support what you have to say. So if you um, choose to use kind of the other approach where you have these half sentences and then a comma and a quote, or you say in the quote, which again is not good writing. You don't have to do that if you have a complete sentence here to introduce your idea and then the quote supports what you have to say. So you don't have to put in the quote here in front of this sentence. That's all. That's again sloppy writing. All you have to do is have your complete thought and then a colon after your complete thought. So looking at the works cited page, a lot of you struggled with this on your trailer essay. Um, so works cited is always going to be called works cited in MLA, not sources, not bibliography, not references. It's always works cited. Works cited is centered, 12-point font. You don't bold it, you don't underline it. It's in the center of your works cited page. And then your sources are in alphabetical order by whatever comes first over here, if that's the author's last name or if that's the name of a title of an article. If you don't have an author's name, then whatever the first letter of that source is, you alphabetize it. Everything other than the first line needs to be indented. So this student's works cited page is perfect. She's got all of her sources in MLA format, according to, if you don't have the handbook that you guys are supposed to have, which I know we had some shortage of books on both campuses. So if you don't have that Wadsworth handbook, then you can always go to PurdueOutMLA.com and it will show you exactly how to cite your sources. But anyway, she's got all of her sources in alphabetical order. All of her sources have a period at the end. Um, if you do have a hyperlink, that would go obviously after the end of your source. And then every line other than the first line of all her sources are indented. So that is helpful to me if I'm looking through your paper and I see this quote from this particular author, then I can quickly look back at the works cited page and make sure that that is in fact a quote that she has on her, in a source that's listed on her works cited page. So just remember, as you're writing your rough drafts and you're writing your final drafts over the weekend, you had to have 3 to 4, I think, sources is what I asked you guys to have. So all of those sources should be listed on your works cited page. You should have a minimum of at least one quote from each of those sources somewhere in your paper. And every piece of information that comes from one of your sources needs to be in the form of a direct quote, not just a random statistic or a random number hanging somewhere in your paper with the source in parentheses beside it. Again, that's not how we use MLA. That's not how we write in MLA. So if you have any questions about formatting or about MLA or about incorporating quotes into your papers in the correct way, just make sure that you email me. If you format it correctly and your content is good, then I'll tend to give you pretty positive feedback on your rough drafts, or I'm sorry, on your first drafts when you turn those in on Sunday. If you've kind of ignored what I've asked you to do as far as MLA and formatting and organization, then you're probably going to get a pretty low grade and you're going to be asked to revise your paper. So whether you do it now or whether you do it then, you're going to have to do this kind of formatting with your quotes in order to get a high grade on your paper.